All right, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're going to be talking today about how to get a foot in the door working for a recording studio or a live sound company. And we had a lot of questions, really good questions asked as people were registering for this. And if we don't get to everything, we'll try to answer either as a blog post or in the SoundGirls private Facebook group. And I'm the moderator today. I'm April Tucker. I'm a post-production mixer in Los Angeles, and I'm currently writing a book about business for audio professionals who are early in their career. And so for the book, I'm looking across the audio industry from live sound to video games to television and music production to answer these questions about how to get a career off the ground and really how to get from, finding work to making a sustainable career about it. So we're just going to jump right in. We're going to have our three guests introduce themselves, and please tell us a little about yourself and where you work. And let's start with Tina.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's safe and healthy where they are. My name's Tina Morris. I'm the studio manager for the Village Studios in Los Angeles. We do music and post-production, audiobooks, film scores, everything. So we kind of run the gambit of the recording world. That's basically it.
All right, and Meegan?
Hi, my name is Meegan Holmes. I work for 8th Day Sound here in Los Angeles. I'm a general manager for our branch, and I also do sales and personnel.
And Catherine.
Hey, I'm Catherine Vericolli. I'm a studio owner in Tempe, Arizona, although right now, obviously, I'm not in Arizona. So I own a studio called FiveThirteen Recording. Had it for coming up on almost 12 years, which is a really long time in a really tough market. So we do a lot of local music, all kinds of genres. I have a staff of engineers that work for me that are working extra hard right now because currently I'm in Nashville, where I've been quarantined since COVID started. So I work half the year in Nashville and half the year in Arizona anyway. So now I'm just sort of forced to kind of make things work here right now. So when I'm in Nashville, I do a lot of archiving and transfer work for a little company called Useful Industries, which is a ton of fun. Love doing that. And lately just been making a lot of dinner and baking a lot of bread.
Thank you. So how we're going to do this this webinar is that we're first going to look at how things worked before the pandemic, knowing that at some point down the road, how you find work will be very similar. And then after we kind of talk about how things have traditionally worked, then we'll address things that are specific to right now and what we can do to prepare for when the work does come back. And then we'll leave some time for questions at the end. So feel free to ask questions as you think of them, and we'll loop back around. So for the first part, I wanted to talk about entry-level jobs. And basically, what are the entry-level jobs that someone could apply for with you? And I don't know if anyone wants to jump on this first, or if I should call on somebody. Okay, Tina.
The entry-level jobs that we have at the Village, we kind of model ourselves after the traditions of the other major recording studios in Los Angeles, where we have runner positions. They're paid positions, but they're a lot like interns, but we pay you because we feel like the runners do a lot of work for us, so they need to get paid for their hard work. We do not take advantage of unpaid interns just because it is a big studio. We have 12 recording studios that could be going at one time, and it's a lot of work. So that's the main entryway into studio work at our company.
And do you think, maybe we'll just stick here and then jump around. What's the experience level that you're looking for someone like that? Does it have to be someone with no experience, or is it okay if somebody who has some engineering experience or a degree, or is there, where's kind of what are you looking for?
Mainly we look for somebody who has a degree in recording. other than that, you don't really need like any other experience like internships during college or anything like that. We do, what actually is exciting for us is when we do see service industry jobs, you know, like if you were in college, you worked at Starbucks or at a restaurant, that actually works well for us. It's not required, but it's kind of cool to know how to be of service, because that's really what we're aiming for. Even if you're, you know, one of our first engineers, it's like a at service type of thing. What was the other question?
Like,
Okay.
what would be too much experience that you would say, I'm not sure if this person would be a good fit?
Too much experience, I think, is like if you've actually worked at like every major studio in the city. Yeah, I think that's, you know, it just kind of shows that you haven't really, for us, you haven't really like stuck to like one job and one employer, and maybe you've moved around for different reasons, or, you know, conflicts of interest or whatnot with other employees. So I think that's, you know, basically what we're looking for. We have actually hired somebody that actually took a lot of seminars from SoundGirls, and she's ending up to be amazing. So it's not just you have to have like a bachelor's degree from a recording school. It helps, but you know, if you show that you have that drive to really get knowledge and really learn even on your own, that's something that we really look for and is exciting for us.
And Catherine, let's jump to you next, because I know there's a little bit of overlap between type of work.
Yeah, it's weird, the overlap, because it's the same concept but two totally different worlds. So I mean, obviously the Village is a legendary studio, and if anybody doesn't know about Village Recorders, you should definitely check that out. So as where Tina's got 22 recording studios at once, in one area, I've got one, or maybe two if I'm utilizing my mixing suite. So entry-level position for us is a little more, we're looking for like a little more versatility. Unfortunately, our internships are not paid. They can't be. We don't have the budget for it. And the laws in the state of Arizona are different. I don't know how they are in California, but that does not mean that we don't take very good care of our interns. We don't hire a lot of interns in a year, because we don't have a lot of space. We don't require that much work. But what we're looking for in an intern is somebody who's super versatile. So do you need a recording degree? It would be great if you had one. Is it necessary? Not really. I'm looking more for somebody who's really adaptable, who's really willing to just kind of do anything that needs to be done. Because, you know, my studio it's a house, and the entire house is a studio. So there's like, sometimes there's like stuff that needs to be done with like yard related stuff, or like something random, right? Or there's kitchen stuff to be taken care of. It would be great if somebody knew how to solder. That would be awesome. So I'm looking more, not so much for like experience as I am for personality, because I can teach somebody how to do anything, right? So like I can teach somebody how to make a record, over an extended period of time, but like I can teach somebody signal flow, and I can teach somebody how to solder, or so on and so forth, but I can't teach somebody how to be like chill and like cool to people, and like not speak when they shouldn't be speaking, or, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking more for somebody who's just like a good fit. I would rather have a great personality who's really willing and adaptable than I am somebody who's got a recording degree from, I don't know, anywhere. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's like an entry level position for us. And it's a runner, but you know, you're getting a lot more hands-on because we're able to do that. So it's almost immediate session, like assistant work.
Okay, and Meegan?
We do interns. They get paid by us. We've had, I think, 5 people come to us in an entry-level internship position, and we've ended up hiring all of them. We believe that you kind of have to start from the ground up in many ways with what we do. So much like what Tina and Catherine said, a willingness to do some of the more mundane things like recoil cable, clean tape off a cable. Those are the kinds of jobs that people start with. So are we looking for experience in the audio field? Yes, somewhat. An interest to drive it. I think that's part of the reason why we liked our interns, is because they came to us with already some knowledge. We have hired people that don't have any audio knowledge at all, and we've found that it takes much longer to get them up to speed with what we need to have them do in our warehouse. We're the smallest of the 4 operations globally, so we do operate in a kind of lean way. We care very much about your personality. You must like dogs if you're going to work in our warehouse, because there are 3 that are there all the time. And if you don't like them, that's definitely going to be a discomfort. We really do look for personality, because like Catherine said, technically, I can teach you the difference between XLR and NL4. That it helps if you know that, but what I care more about is are you on time? Are you polite? Are you honest? Do you own your mistakes? Those are all qualities we look for. When we interview people, we like to know what they're passionate about, what they're interested in. And I think that that's a really important component when applying for any job, is to talk about what excites you. And so in that discussion, it tells us a lot about who you are as a person, because then we see kind of the light in your eye. There are times in live audio where it is a long, hard, hot, dirty day, and you have to want it. And if you don't want it, it's going to suck for you when there's long, hot, dirty days. It's going to be a lot harder if you don't have this kind of crazy stubbornness to continue on. So hardworking, able-bodied doesn't mean you have to be big. It just means that you have to know how to use your body and use it well, and ask for help, and be willing to ask for help. But those are all kind of components that we look for when we hire. And we do hire people that have more experience than that to do our events and our local work. But we really do love teaching people from the ground up our systems and how they go together if their intention is to tour for us.
Great. So now that we kind of have an idea of what these jobs look like, let's take a look at what it takes to actually get in front of one of the 3 of you. So do you ever post jobs on a job board? Monster, Indeed, Glassdoor, Craigslist? They're all nodding no. How many contacts do you get, and I'll let you tell me if it's a week or a month or a day, from either resume, an email, a phone call? How many cold contacts do you get asking about work?
I feel like Tina's going to have a really, really, really big number. So I kind of want to guess what that number is, but I'm just going to let Tina answer that. But I'll answer really quick because my answer is pretty short. I probably get 2 to 3 inquiries about an internship job or something along those lines every couple of weeks, which isn't that much. Sometimes I get more than that. I have to admit, I'm not always great about getting back to them quickly. But yeah, I mean, do I post jobs online? Never. Yeah, never done that. No.
I probably get like 5 to 10 emails inquiring about jobs a day. But it's just, we actually have, we're accessible through our website. So it's just a form that people fill out, and I try to get back to everybody. A lot of the times I am overwhelmed by the response, but that's about it.
I average about between 5 and 10 a week, and they are, obviously a very broad spectrum of audio person contacts me, not just entry level people, but people who are engineers and, and
yeah, I don't know how
the idea of,
it's scheduled from 4 to 6.
So, or at least they used to. But before all this happened, yeah, there were many people moving here for working in the live industry, and I got countless emails from people saying, I'm moving to town next month and I'm looking to, set up some work. So yes, it is frequent. I answer every one of them.
So when you get someone that contacts you that says, and this, I'm sure Tina gets this also. So someone says, I'm from out of state. Do you consider them, or would you tell them to wait until they're local?
I make them contact me again when they get settled. I'll write them back immediately and say, hey, it's tough to find work here when you're first starting out. I know a lot of people that have moved in and work locally, and it is, you kind of have to shark around and work for a bunch of different companies in order to put it together. When you land here and you get settled, give me a call. And there was a period of time where I would have really welcomed anybody moving here. And then there's been periods of time where I wish people wouldn't try and move here to work, because there's just so many people looking for work. And now is one of those times where I think if I got an email from somebody saying they were thinking about moving to LA, I'd be like, no, don't do it. But yeah, I would say on average, I get at least a couple of those a month.
And for everyone, sorry, Catherine, I saw you were about to say something.
Oh no, I was just going to say kind of what Meegan was saying. Whenever I get an inquiry from somebody out of state, I'm always like, why are you coming to Arizona? You know what I mean? And I try and talk them out of starting an audio career in a market like that. But if they're persistent enough, then I'm like, okay, cool. But I've had those same times where I'm just like, for me to offer up a gig right now would be like almost irresponsible in a way, right? Just because there's like nowhere for it to go. Maybe that's another conversation later on in the
yeah, and we can try to keep it more on like what it was like before and after, and then we'll dig more in the middle. But I'm also wondering, so for all three of you, so for someone who doesn't have any way to, like, they don't have any connection to you, like they just want to reach out to you directly, what's a good way? What's a bad way? And what's a really bad way?
I'll go first. Email me professionally with an email address that isn't sweetkitten48@gmail.com. I don't know what that is. I know that my partner Piper is a huge proponent of making sure that your first name and last name are in your email address. Because if I get an email from somebody who's like, peace and love, 1982, I'm already probably going to ignore it. I know that sounds kind of mean, but if I have a lot of stuff going on that day, or I have a lot more inquiries going on that day, or I'm slammed, I do, all my own booking, all my own billing. I deal with all my own clients. Like I have a very, very small staff. So I don't have a lot of people to sort of like, I don't have somebody who sits in front of a computer and deals with my emails. Do you know what I mean? Which would be awesome. But I'm not that cool, nor do I make that much money. So, and I'm sure Tina can attest this too, like when you're weeding through 10, she gets 10 emails a day. That's insane. Inquires a day. First thing is you want it to be professional. Second thing is you want it to be concise and be proper grammar and spelling if you can. So like, I don't need your entire story, like your whole life, like in an email. I just need like information, what you're interested in, concise. Also, I don't know if anybody else deals with this. Meegan, I don't know if you do, or Tina, but don't ask me questions about recording. It's not a service. You know what I mean? Like, if you're interested in picking up a job, awesome, but like, don't do that and also slip in a, like, what kind of microphone is the best microphone to use on this instrument in this particular situation. It's not a time to do that, not an appropriate time to do that. So the worst possible way is to incessantly call me or email me incessantly. Again, because I'm yet to get back to you. So if I get if I'm pounded with incessant emails, or like somebody calls the studio line a ton, or somebody gets a hold of my cell phone number, God forbid, and is calling me, that's bad. Don't do that. So good way, clear, concise, professional email with your first name and last name in it. Friendly. Worst way, asking me questions about recording and contacting me incessantly, like more than once a day.
I would like to echo all of what Catherine said. That was amazing. Great advice. Others, I get often, yo, here's my resume, peace. And it's like, why would I want to hire you? A nice professional email is always the way to go. Completely understand, when somebody gets to Los Angeles, hey, you're applying to everywhere. You're not just applying to the Village, but when you email me, please don't say, "Dear Miss Morris, I would really love a job at the record plants. Please consider me for the record plant," because then I will write back, "Sounds like you really want to work at the record plant. You might want to contact the record plants." I get that a lot. That's, just because I get it. You're cutting and pasting, moving fast, trying to get as many contacts as possible. But the attention is in the detail. That will show me you do not have attention to detail, and I will not want to hire you. Guess, yeah, and just be considerate. The amount of times you contact somebody to check up, maybe once a month. If you've sent in your resume and you just want to be like, hey, just want to check if there are any openings. Don't do it the next week. Don't do it, every other week. Do it once a month. Just check in politely, and don't. Some people will call kind of sneakily to check up on things, and they'll, reception will pick up and say, hey, I've got somebody for booking, and I'll take the phone call and be like, oh, hey, no, I didn't need booking. I was just making sure that you got my resume and you're considering me and everything. And then they'll do it again and they'll get passed. Just, be truthful. If you're actually calling to check up on your resume, say that. Don't kind of sneak past reception. That's a big turnoff. And then, yeah, I'd like to address, definitely, I make sure to have people be in Los Angeles when we're taking their resumes into consideration, just because for us, whenever we do have an opening, it's an immediate opening. It'll be between 1 and 2 weeks. So I will need you here in Los Angeles to have you start. I'll consider doing video. If you're planning on moving to Los Angeles within the next few weeks, I will consider doing a video chat with you. But other than that, I can't hire 6 months in advance. If you're in school and you're like, hey, I want to apply for a job, well, get out of school first, move to Los Angeles, and then apply for a job, in my humble opinion.
My biggest pet peeve is when people don't save their resume with their name. Resume.
That happens?
All the time. Please, when you save your document, save it with your name. Meegan Holmes resume. Because I'm going to take your resume. and I'm going to put it into a folder on my computer. And if it just says resume, I'm not going to open it. I'm going to ignore it. I promise you. It annoys me so much. Save it with your name. And then, yeah, please don't call me. Please. I wear so many hats for what I'm general manager, I'm a salesperson, I'm dealing with clients, I'm dealing with booking people, I interview all of our full-time staff, I interview and I do a lot. And I can't, please don't call me. Like, that will move you to the bottom of the list with me. And you can have great reference or whatever. And I will just, that really bums me out. Yes, resumes, written well. Don't lie on your resume. Your information is verifiable. I can make 6 phone calls. I might seem like a nice, sweet chick sitting in Los Angeles, might not know somebody in England. Not the case. Don't lie. Put factual information. We all know somebody that might know somebody that actually knows you, that'll tell us whether you're lying or not. Don't claim other people's credits as your own. Bad, bad, bad. Don't do that. What's my other thing? I made fun of a kid that put Eagle Scout on his resume, but I'll say, if you were an Eagle Scout, put it on there, because a friend of mine changed my mind about the whole thing. It's a lot of discipline to get through the whole Eagle Scout thing. So if that's part of who you are and part of your ethics, ROTC, all of those things, I think show your character. So go ahead and put it on there, but please don't make your resume longer than a page. And don't, as you get older and more established in the industry, don't cling to your great credits. Yeah, I did Prince in 1998. Nobody cares now. Nobody. It was 12 years ago. I want to know what you just did. I want to know what you've done recently. I want to know what you've done in the past 5 years. And if you don't have a huge resume, that's okay too. Tell me what you know. Tell me what classes you've taken. Tell me what you've learned. Tell me you've taken the Digico class. Tell me you've been a part of SoundGirls all these years. All of those things help me, but be honest and concise and email me. I'll email you back, I promise.
What happens if someone walks in to try to meet with one of you?
My guys will stop you at the door. I don't have a receptionist, so you can actually call my office line. I can let it go to voicemail, and you can obviously call my cell phone if you get that number. But the only way to get into our building is to walk through our warehouse, and my guys have learned that if somebody comes in asking for me and I haven't warned them about it, they'll stop you and turn you around and send you away.
I'm calling the police. If you're coming into my house, that's weird, because our address isn't posted anywhere, because it's a house and there's like a ton of stuff in there worth a lot of money, all my records and my dog and all the other things. So we don't post our internet anywhere, our internet. We don't post our address on the internet anywhere, which is a really smart move, by the way, when you have a home studio or a studio that's in a home. So yeah, if you come to my studio, it's going to be a pretty big problem. You better be delivering a package and working for the UPS.
Well, we, because we kind of have an open door policy, we actually do accept resumes. Don't expect to actually see me up at the front desk. I'm kind of all the way on the 3rd floor, hiding away from everybody. So, you're more than welcome to come in, drop off a resume, and then I'll get a report from my receptionist. But definitely will not be, there will definitely not be any, hey, can I meet Tina right now? Because that won't happen.
And I'll add, any post-production studio I've ever worked at, small, large, corporation, same thing. You can walk in, you can drop it off, but it's really a waste of time. You're just going to meet the secretary who's going to put it in the pile, and it'll eventually make it to the manager or the owner's office. Let's see, does anyone have anything else they want to add about cold contacts, or should we move on to resumes? I think that's a good place to go next.
Yeah, I actually need to change over to my Bluetooth headphones because my iPad's about to die. So Hold
Okay.
on just a moment.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we didn't quite touch on with the. Oh, so then how many resumes do you hang on to at a time? So someone comes in, they give you a resume, they email it to you. What do you do next? How much time do you spend looking at a resume? What are you looking for? What makes you throw it out?
I keep my resumes on file for about a year, especially since they're all digital. They're not taking up any more space anymore. Anybody that turns in or mails a resume, I keep for a year, and then I purge. And what was the other question, April?
Like what would you see on a resume that would make someone stay in the good pile or the bad pile or the throw out pile?
Just a lot of good experience or schooling. I think the only one turnoff that I have is when people state that music has always been in their lives, and and they've always been inspired by music. It sounds cheesy. I don't know. For me, I'm like, everybody has music in their lives. There's always music everywhere. Don't tell me music has always been in your life. That's just my little pet peeve.
Meegan, any thoughts?
I think I voiced mine, be honest, be clear, put your name on it. Put your home address too, or better yet, put where you are living, because there's been some people that have put addresses on their resumes, but they don't actually live there, because sometimes we hire people from out of the state of California. We have a Cleveland office. We do shows all over the country. Also, if you're, starting to tour and do that style of work, and you're looking for that kind of work, you don't necessarily have to live next to one of our warehouses if you have that kind of quality of experience. But be accurate, because sometimes, I might be looking for somebody to help out in Nashville, and here I just got this resume from this person that, looks like they could be a monitor tech in Nashville with somebody. I'll call them up and have them jump down for the day. People get hurt, people get sick. People have got personal issues and have to go. So me knowing where you're from is helpful. Yeah, I don't want 6 pages of resume. I'm not gonna read it. I'm just not. I'm gonna read the one and a half pager, really. And you should be able to fit it. I've seen some people fit a lot of stuff on a single sheet of paper with teeny tiny little font. If you really want to cram it, you can fit it on there and lay it out. And Carrie just put up the resource for resumes and stuff like that. Definitely take a look at that and follow the format. But I think for all of us, the three of us probably, have very busy work weeks on the average, and this is only part of what we're doing. And so making it easy, making it clear, and making your communication good will only leave a good impression with people that are very busy.
And so one thing I'll add, oh, go ahead, Catherine.
No, I was just going to reiterate exactly what Meegan said. The last statement is super true. We're busy, and I don't have somebody to sit and read resumes for me. So yeah, be concise. That's the biggest thing. Be concise. It should look professional, don't use Comic Sans, let's have it look professional. And if you're like, maybe I should put that on there, I'm not really sure if I should put it on there, you probably shouldn't. Just don't. If you're questioning a piece of information that should go on your resume, I'm really into Led Zeppelin, just leave that off. There's a lot of other stuff that you should probably put on there, like your experience. And you know what? If you don't have a lot of that, it's okay. I would rather have a short resume with honesty and have it be concise than an actual full page full of filler, crap that doesn't matter.
So one thing I'm thinking in post-production, I've screened resumes for interns and entry-level jobs, and I remember getting 100 resumes, and 3/4 would mention people with Pro Tools certification or degrees or whatever. And like what we actually needed was someone who had a car and someone who could get lunch orders correct. So I'm wondering, what are the soft skills that maybe someone should focus on their resume? Like do they really need to be beefing up the fact that they have all these Pro Tools tech skills, or whatever? Like what tech skills are relevant to tell, and what is going to be like, I've got 80 other resumes here.
I want to know what their technical skills are. If you know what Pro Tools is and how to use it, if you know what Smart is and how to use it, if you know how any of the line array softwares work, if you're familiar with a console and its software, I want to know about it. If you've been trained in any way, shape, or form on any technology whatsoever, Dante, level 1, level 2, tell me. I want to know, because all of that tells me your hunger for information. All of that tells, because a lot of the time those courses you've got to go and seek out on your own. Fortunately at 8th Day, we're a large company. We believe in our training. We encourage people to take these classes. We do conferences almost every year where we bring everybody to Cleveland and they sit through trainings on not only our proprietary gear, but the array processing and all these things that are utilized with our D&B product, and console seminars, wireless seminars. We want to encourage the learning and that spark for digesting information. So if I see that on somebody's resume, that's good, because there's a lot to learn and you're never going to stop learning, and the technology is going to keep blazing past you if you're not open to learning. So I like seeing that. And that's a great resume filler right there, is all of that technology.
Yeah, I definitely want to, it's definitely like boasting about Pro Tools certification. I haven't really met anybody that I've hired that has been like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're Pro Tools certified. That's not a requirement. You do not have to get Pro Tools certified to work in a studio anywhere that I know of. I've never met anybody who doesn't hire people who are not Pro Tools certified. That's something you can learn, but definitely Meegan has a great point of, definitely like what consoles have you had experience in and all that stuff. That's actually really great, just so we know where you're starting from. The reason why we ask people to be, from a music school is to be able to talk the same language from the moment you get into our studio. That's the biggest thing, is just knowing the same language. A lot of it you can learn as well, but yeah, if you have like a lot of experience on the equipment, that's really amazing.
Okay. Oh, Catherine, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you again.
No, it's okay. I was just going to interject that I would like to know your technical skills. I don't know if I want to know maybe as much as like maybe Meegan does. I know there's a lot of stuff in her world where that's kind of essential. It's a lot easier if there's already a head start there. I would like to know if you know how to use Pro Tools. Honestly, most entry-level gigs, as far as like I'm concerned, are going to be tuning and editing. So if you're proficient in tuning and editing programs, that's a huge help for me. But yeah, do you have a car? Do you have a license to drive that car? Can you purchase alcohol? Can you not purchase alcohol? Those are all things like that we have to consider. I mean, obviously on your resume, not necessarily something to put, but like that, you're right. That's important. Sometimes a little more than the technical stuff. Like, are you mobile? Do you have a car? Are you here in the state?
Can I add something too? When sending a resume, this is going to sound weird, but don't really bother sending me a demo CD or demos of your work, just because you're going to be getting coffee for the next couple of years. And we're gonna get to know if you know your stuff. You know, we're gonna get to know what you're great at, what your specialties are, and everything. Yeah, I know it sounds weird.
Tina, take that one step further.
Studio.
I'll take that one step further and say,
okay.
if you send me like, yo, check out my beats, I will stop reading everything in that moment, whether it's in an email or on a resume, or if it's an attachment. Like if I open up an email and it's like, an interest in a position, and then there maybe there's a resume, but there's like an audio attachment, it goes into the trash for me immediately. Cause I'm already like, nope, don't want that person. Don't want a person who's like gonna just send me something musical. They've already missed the mark. Do you know what I mean? Like I will move right on.
100%.
Yeah.
Is it more about trust, or is it about that maybe someone doesn't recognize where their place is going to be once they come into working for you?
It's about ego. It's about ego, hands down. Like it's already too much. Like I don't need the ego. It's already so much ego already. Like we all have ego and that's fine, but like I don't need the ego to be the first thing that pops up in my face in an email. Like we'll get to the ego stuff later, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. I agree about that. Also, it's an entry-level position, so yeah, I don't need to know that you've remixed your version of Metallica and made it sound awesome. You know, we'll figure that out later. We'll figure that out after you get Metallica's burgers right first.
That's a really good point. You know, and I was just thinking earlier about I have a master's degree, and I went from a master's degree to being a PA, where I literally was taking out trash and answering phones, and it was about trust. It was about, you know, can you get this lunch order right? Because if you don't, are we really going to want to hand you this master tape to take to this place and get it delivered to the right person? Like that, you have to establish that you're trustworthy. Okay, so next step is let's get into networking. So if your resume is being passed along by somebody that one of you three know, how much does that increase your odds of being considered?
Can you repeat that?
So if it's not someone just randomly emailing you, hi, Catherine, you know, here's my resume, but it's I know Piper, she said to get in touch with you.
Oh, and
how much?
Definitely not hiring them. Just kidding. 100%. 100% increase in instant.
Now.
Hey, because Piper is logged in from another room in this house, which is really funny. But 100% instantly, because I have an established relationship with my colleagues, most of whom I consider to be great friends of mine. So if I'm getting an email from like my friend Eva or like Ivana or Piper or anybody who's in my immediate network, anybody who's like really active in SoundGirls, and one of you three, I am going to instantly take a look at it. I'm going to take the time to take a look at it, because it's already past that first step of me having to filter, because you have already done that for me, which is awesome, right? You've already taken that first step.
Yeah, same thing here. It jumps you to the front of the line if you know my best friend of 15 years and he's telling me that you're great. And yeah, I mean, I've hired people not even seeing their resume on my friend's reference. This guy's amazing. You're going to love him. Okay. You know, are you busy next week? Yeah, you're right. This guy is amazing. We do love him. You know, and consequently, we are a group of people that are all very close friends, and I completely trust all the people that I work around to refer somebody that's super strong, and they kind of know that they're one of us. You know, they know what we're looking for. They know who they want to work with. You know, that's a lot of it. Like Catherine said, it's your personality too. And if your personality lends itself to somebody liking you enough that they're willing to vouch for you, there you go. That's going to jump.
There is nothing stronger than a recommendation. Like, I'm just going to put that out there right now. I don't want to say I don't care what's on your resume, because that would be irresponsible. so I'm not going to say that, but like I care a hell of a lot more about your references because I am going to call all of them, or I'm going to speak to all of them, or email all of them.
Is that something you should put like in your, like, where should they tell you right away? Like they contact you, I got your information, or, you know, I'm being referred by so-and-so.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that that's harmful. I think if it's done respectfully, like, hey, I was referred to you by this person, here's a little bit of information about me, I'm okay with that. But there's nothing stronger than that recommendation. I can tell you that I have personally recommended students at times, or young students or young folks that want to get into this, to my colleagues, and I like lose sleep over it because I'm like, oh my God, I totally just recommended this person to the studio. And like, if I have the kind of relationship with that, like with that person who I'm recommending, I will straight up say like, I am putting my name on this. So that's like an extra big, heavy baggage for you, right? That's like, because if you're gonna not be on time, or you're not gonna be thorough, or you're not gonna be respectful, or you're gonna like push your mix CD to like a client or something weird, then that comes back, all of that comes back to me because I am recommending you for this gig. So, you know, I know that I don't recommend people to my friends and colleagues lightly. So I'm going to assume that my friends and colleagues don't do the same in my direction. So, you know, if you have a recommendation, absolutely, first thing I would mention. And that, to me, for me, that's the most important thing when I'm looking for somebody to hire.
I think for me, 100%. There are so many applicants at one time that if somebody says, oh my God, you have to meet this person, like Catherine and Meegan said, like we really trust our friends, I think, and nobody really takes referring somebody lightly in this business, because yes, it does reflect back on you. So when you do get a recommendation, 100% goes up to the top of the list. I make sure, even if I don't have openings, I meet that person for future hiring, so I can kind of keep their name around. And then also, just one point, if somebody does refer you, if somebody says, hey, you should call this person, make sure that you mention that in your email, your introductory email. I had a situation where a person was referred to me. They just sent me an email. They didn't say, hey, so-and-so recommended I contact you. So went to kind of like the general mailbox. And then that friend said, oh, hey, did you ever hear from so-and-so? And I was like, no, I never heard from them. Oh, too bad. I've already hired the people I needed to hire. And that person was like, hey, I emailed you. And I said, yeah, but you didn't say you were sent by this person. It's like, well, I didn't want to seem kind of egotistical, surprisingly enough. And I was like, well, you should have said, hey, so-and-so sent me. It would have caught my eye, and you would have actually been, considered a little bit more. So I know it sounds weird that, it's a who you know kind of town, but it really is, especially when we're dealing with reputations that are very, very delicate. So we always like to know who's going to be working for us. And if it's a little bit more known before you start, that's a good thing.
Well, I'll add a story here. So a few years ago, I had a professor that I knew from college contacted me and said, hey, I know someone who's moving out. One of my students now is moving out to LA. Would you mind meeting him? And I said, sure. So I met up with him for coffee. He was nice. I kind of wanted to help him. I think I'd spoken to Tina not that long before. She knows my husband. They go way back. And so I think I knew they were hiring. And I said, hey, get in touch with Tina. And I probably messaged Tina and just said, hey, I'm referring to someone I've only met him once, but but he seems all right, like in some way I said to her, like, I don't know this person well, so I can't give them my, full seal of approval, but I can at least say I've met him and he's decent. And then Tina met him and they hired him, and I guess he ended up being a good employee. So
Is that Carl?
yeah.
He's like one of my favorite guys now too. So
Yeah, okay, so it's
He's
funny. So
amazing.
it's like, so it doesn't have to be like my best friend. It can literally be, this person that I knew from, my professor. Do you know anyone in LA? Ask, anyone, in Arizona. Okay. Do you know somebody, a musician who maybe you would know Catherine? Like you can find these ways to kind of weave your way through when it comes to networking. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add on?
Yeah, I'll
the
add
networking front?
something to it, which is you don't know who is going to be able to hire you at some point in all of our industries. You don't know if this person that you're meeting randomly, let's say you go and you do a day at the village, and then two people that you're working next to, you don't know what's going to happen in the careers of those two people down the road. They might be people that can hire you in the future. And so working on your relationships and cultivating your relationships on everything you do, on every job you do, is really important, especially in the beginning, because you're laying the groundwork for your future. And all three of us have talked about how we trust our friends and we trust the people who are close to us. And that's time and connection. And so it's really important, networking. Everybody you work with, people you work around, people you get to know, especially the people that you get along with, keep in touch with them. Tell them what your goals are. Don't be afraid to say to your friends, man, I really want to work for this company. They seem like, or I really want to go work at the studio, because that person, their dad might own the place, or their best friend might be the person that does the hiring or whatever. You never know how you're going to create an opportunity. You just have to keep cultivating your relationships. It will absolutely pay off down the road.
Is there any way that someone could incorrectly network with people who work with you guys? So like, let's say there's an engineer that works at the studio, and like, okay, let's say I'm a student and I'm reaching out to the engineers at the studio because I'm actually trying to get a job. Would that be seen as okay or weird, or like how deep should someone go with networking if like they know this is where I want to work?
I think
Go
ahead.
No, April is going to have a much better answer than I am. So,
I feel like cold calling, like, are you talking about like cold calling an engineer to then try to get in?
Yeah, not necessarily for work, like just if they just want to get to know them, like, hey, I like your work, could I meet you for coffee sometime? And then meet up for coffee and say, hey, are you guys looking to hire anybody? And then have that engineer recommend you. With that, like kind of the back door.
It's kind of weird, but maybe if that engineer really does, like they click and that engineer really does think that they have potential, it's not unheard of. I wouldn't say don't do that, but we haven't gotten a lot of hires that way. But definitely, I think probably mostly professors from universities are mostly like a really good way, because they can kind of vouch for their experiences with you in class, and then say, hey, this person was really good in my class. I think you should at least give them a look-see. Definitely your professors. I mean, if they're professors, they probably have had a lot of life experience and do have connections. It's a really small world, this music thing. So you never know. I would look towards your professors for like kind of some referrals as well.
I just want to add really fast that a lot of the times it's pretty it's pretty obvious like what the right channels are to contact a company or to contact a studio, right? So like you know, if you go to the website and there's like something that's obviously there, like a person to email or an information email, it's I don't know, for me, it's should be obvious. But then again, I went to, you know, recording school, and I had a whole program that taught me how to, you know, properly contact people and so on, and how to write a resume and all that stuff. So I'm not, you know, some people might not have all of that. But as far as like going through a back channel through like one of my employees will probably shut that down pretty quickly. They'll probably be like, hey, you need to contact, you know, Catherine through this channel, or they'll, you know, send me a text message and be like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell you the story of this dude who just stopped me on the street and it's so ridiculous. And it'll become something that we laugh about later, maybe, or, you know, so at the end of the day, like the people that work for me are the type of people who are going to filter a lot of that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I think that there's kind of an appropriate way to do it. And it should be pretty obvious, and hopefully like my website makes that obvious, you know what I mean, for people who are looking or interested. So I don't know, like going through weird, to be honest, in a way, but like, yeah, I mean, what Tina said, anybody who has dealt with you in an educational environment for an extended period of time is the best reference, because they are going to attest to whether or not you are punctual, how much you talk when you should and when you shouldn't, which in a studio is very important. I can imagine also in a warehouse setting or in a live setting or on a tour bus is very important. So, you know, how thorough are you? How good are you at a wide variety of things? You know, I mean, I was a teacher at a recording school for you know, a good number of years, 4 years. And, you know, I saw students from the very beginning of the development of the program all the way up through a certain spot. So like I saw them kind of develop over a period of time. So yeah, I mean, professors or any kind of educational reference is always the best.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that, you know, like I said, I do get people referring others to me that, and these are guys that have worked with this person maybe for another company, or, you know, the touring world is such that, you know, you get hired by the band sometimes directly. And so maybe this is this person's friend from, you know, this tour that they just did. And again, I'll say that you'll end up getting filtered to me by all of them. They'll all say in the end, hey, you know, you gotta talk to Meegan about, you know, getting in with us. But, you know, it's that referral point. You can get hired by our Cleveland office by writing the human resources person there. And then what she'll do is she'll send you along to me here in LA if you live in LA. It's cool, you know. I don't look at that so much as a backdoor thing, as you're just, you know, taking the opportunity. And I think that that's actually the email address that's on our website. But we all filter back and forth. So like I got a resume from somebody who lives in Michigan, and I told the guy, I was like, I'm going to hook you up with the Cleveland warehouse, and because you have a greater probability of working with them than you do with me out here in LA. And they do the same with me. But, you know, it's hard enough getting in with any of us. It really is. It's not an easy road. You know, it wasn't easy for me. I was a stagehand for 5 years, and definitely took advantage of meeting as many people as I could, and finally getting somebody that wanted to tour with me, you know, and took me on the road. So I think, again, I'll say, work on your relationships and being a kind, helpful, hardworking person, you know, and it'll carry you pretty far.
So I'm guessing for most people today, and again, we'll keep this pre-pandemic, not necessarily right now. It's not like you get out of school, you apply for a job, suddenly you're a full-time employee. That there's this gap, and for, like you just mentioned, for some people it can be years, right, between I have an interest in having a full-time career in audio and I have a full-time job or a full-time career in audio. So what kinds of things do you think people could be doing with their time that would add value to them as an applicant? And or what, and I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, because obviously right now no one's working, but even pre-pandemic, like if someone was working in food service versus, I don't know, post-production, like are there things that would stand out to you that would make someone stand out?
I can say a few things about that. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is pre-pandemic and pandemic. As far as post-pandemic, we don't know about that yet. But I'm interested in how much a person wants to soak up and suck up knowledge. So like, what are you like reading? Are you studying stuff? Are you getting into shit that is like new for you? Are you like building gear? Are you, I mean, there's lots of different weird things that somebody could be doing when they can't actually go to work, right? Like, in what ways are they educating themselves? If that makes sense, which is pandemic, especially because like, and pre-pandemic.
I think for us, with our schedule and everything, like the gap, because we start people off once we've hired the person, we start them with, like 3 or 4 shifts a week. So a lot of the times, people ask if they can get a secondary job because obviously, a part-time job at a studio is not going to pay the bills. Most of the time, like people, just in a real life situation, pre-pandemic, people have gotten like service jobs, like restaurant jobs and everything, just as a good way of kind of melding, the flexible schedule. But also, what Catherine said, like if I see people like, oh my God, I just got this mic kit and I'm going to build my own mic. That shows like a lot of initiative. You know what I mean? I think that's really cool. There's a lot of ways that you can continue learning throughout when you don't have a full-time gig in audio or when you don't have a gig or school right now. There's a lot of resources on what to learn and practice and everything.
My world, there's so much information on the internet right now. And I think just about every manufacturer out there has done some sort of wonderful webinar for you to take part in. And, it's really, sky's the limit. There's so many great webinars out there. If you're interested in doing wireless technologies, Shure and Sennheiser both have great forums. There's some great engineers out there that are talking about their workflow and how they came up and like really exposing and sharing themselves professionally with people, which is something that's been amazing about the pandemic, is seeing these guys who, magazine articles, there's web articles about these people and what they do, but to actually like sit and listen to 2 A-level, live sound engineers talk about what they do and why they do things or why they approach things in a particular way. There's amazing opportunities out there for people to learn all sorts of stuff and all sorts of techniques and new little tricks and skills. Absolutely, I said earlier, Dante and all of these extra technologies that we utilize within our systems, all of those trainings are out there. A lot of them are free and totally worth doing. And that is pre, during, and post-pandemic, all of it. There's no reason why all of that information shouldn't be of interest to you, because so much of it is the core of what we do. And like I said, I look at those things on people's resumes like, oh, cool, look at all that education that person got. Every person I know that is already very established in the industry, still taking webinars, still taking classes, still listening to people talk about what they do, still talking with others about what they do. I think that's, probably the theme for the whole thing is to just keep sucking down the information as best you can.
And would any of you hold it against anybody, pre-pandemic or now, if, you know, if they had to work, if their resume only said McDonald's, right? Because that's the only job they could get and they needed to pay the bills.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
No
That
way.
would actually be a boost.
Yeah, because you know what? It takes a lot of guts to say like, "Hey, I worked at McDonald's." The resume is not very long, you know. Because I don't know. I think that for me, I know Meegan has touched on this a couple times, but honesty is number one. So I would rather have you say like, "I worked at McDonald's. I needed to pay the bills," or "I did this." You know, but I'm really, really passionate and interested in doing this kind of work. You know, that's going to mean more to me than somebody who's trying to send me, you know, 5 WAV files of like some stuff that they've worked on or whatever. No, I don't think so previous to the pandemic, and I don't think so during, especially, and then after, because where are we all going to be? You know, I mean, McDonald's sometimes looking real sweet to me. I mean, there's one right down the street.
Yeah, because I definitely sense there was a few questions that came up about what to do during the pandemic, and I also just feel like I have seen in the SoundGirls group too, there's this kind of sense of fear of what's going to happen to me if I need to step away from the industry for a year, if I need to go do something else to pay the bills, and to me it's like,
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, go be a contract taster, go work for or tracer, or go work for Amazon. If anything, like if I met someone who worked for Amazon for the last year, I'd be like, ooh, what was it like? You know, like it becomes a source of conversation too, in addition to, you know.
One of my best friends, who is the monitor engineer for the 1975 big arena touring pop act, works for Amazon right now in Vegas. Night shift, 10 hours. He does 250 boxes an hour, and he has been sore, tired. He's lost 11 pounds in 3 weeks. He's working his butt off, and it's what he's doing. And he is an amazing engineer, like one of the best engineers I know, one of the best monitor engineers I know, for sure, without a doubt. And he's been doing webinars with people and chatting about his career and everything, but right now, he works for Amazon. And it doesn't matter, because in the end, next year, he'll be mixing monitors for some act that's on tour in 2021. And that Amazon stint will just be a memory for him. And it won't matter. And it's the same thing right now. I think everybody gets a hall pass for 2020 in whatever type of work they do.
Well, look, it doesn't change who you are and what you know.
That's right.
Like it doesn't. So like, and something that's really sort of, I mean, this pandemic is really terrible, but what's also kind of amazing and beautiful about it is that we're all going through it together. All of us. All of us are in the same boat. Now, some of us are a little bit more fortunate to be able to work through the pandemic. My partner, Piper, she's a mastering engineer. She doesn't need to sit in a room with a bunch of people. Mastering engineers have that going for them. So she's slammed, and I'm thankful for that, because like, I'm hungry. I'm not necessarily cutting a ton of records right now. My studio is still cutting records, but not at the same frequency, obviously, because we need to stay safe. So, you know, and I'm okay saying that. I'm okay saying like, you know what, I'm gonna take care of some stuff around the house, and I'm gonna do like a couple of tape transfers here and there, and I'm gonna maybe go get like a weird odd job, and that's okay, because that doesn't take away from the fact that I've owned a studio for 12 years and that I know I'm an engineer, and doesn't change the fact that I'm sitting here on this panel. So we're all in it together, and there should be no shame in any odd job that people have to get right now. I mean, it's a really weird time, you know?
Yeah, I'd like to say, you know, I think I echo with Meegan and Catherine, is taking a break doesn't erase your experience. My experiences, you know, I graduated college, jumped right into engineering, jumped right into, you know, all those sleepless nights and everything. And then I was working at an audio company doing installations. I actually needed a break. I actually took a break for 5 years, and I nannied and loved it. It was awesome. But, you know, I just needed something different for a quick second, for a 5-year quick second. And then, you know, I moved to Los Angeles and just picked it right back up again. I did start as a runner again, but it was because I was in a completely different city. I was in Boston from when I graduated and lived there for about 9 years. And then when I came to Los Angeles, I started from the bottom again, but it didn't take long for me to be back in the tech shop. It didn't take long for me to be back in the studio. So I wouldn't worry about, especially right now, we are all in this together. Everybody understands that you're, you know, if you're in school and you're just graduating, nobody's going to hold it against you that you didn't just jump right into a studio gig. Everybody's going to understand. So I wouldn't worry about having any type of gap right now. Like the other said, you get a pass for 2020. 2020 sucks.
And we had a question too about, would you consider a career change right now within audio? Like say you're out of work because you're in live sound and you want to get into studio work or post-production work or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm used to making it loud. Yeah, I can mic things up. I can plug things in all day, and I make an excellent cup of coffee. You know, so, and I'm not above running and getting food for everybody. I love to cook. You know, who knows? Craft services could be totally dialed in.
I'm thinking about just starting a little cooking business, since that's all I've been doing since I've sort of been quarantined here, is doing a ton of cooking. And I'm like, I won't lie, there are moments where I'm like, man,
It isn't bad, right?
Not running a studio would be nice for like a little while, you know? It's like, I'm forced, I mean, I think all of us in a way are forced into living life in a really weird way right now, where it's not the day-to-day routine. You know, I don't, some of us still have that, but you know, things are like, okay, I'm not really sure what day it is, and you know, guess I'll go fix that door that needed to be fixed like 2 years ago, and like, so I don't know. For me personally, it's been, and I'm fortunate to be able to have a little bit of buffer to be able to not have to have a lot of work coming in right now. So for me, it was about good timing. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm getting into like all kinds of weird stuff. Like I'm getting into like making weird noises with weird musical things, like little bleep bloop blop bloop things that I wouldn't have time to do before. But now I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let's make some weird ambient music. Rad, you know? So I don't know, I guess maybe the point of my babbling right now is to sort of embrace that, if you can embrace that, like, you know, would I change careers? Like, no, but do I think about it? Sure. You know, would I be a live sound engineer? No. You guys work way too hard for me.
Lots of heavy cable in our world. And I think you guys are too fussy, so there you go.
I'll be the first to admit, I am totally fussy.
Yeah, man, you got
to down because I need time to fix mistakes. I can't just fix it on the fly. What is that? Live sound.
Yeah. No, we like to throw and go. Come on, you can fix it. But yeah, I mean, I'm with Catherine where, you know, my mom was a caterer, and so the cooking thing has always kind of been the fallback if I ever needed it. But I'm lucky and I haven't needed it, and I am very fortunate right now. Even though I took a pay cut, I'm still getting paid by 8th Day. They've kept a very small group of us on, and we do have a couple things going on. Fortunately, some of our clients are working, but it is really hard for me to imagine doing something else other than live event production. You know, I could stage manage, I can production manage, but you know, I don't know that I could feel. I would have to be a runner for Tina. You know, I would have to go and do the Starbucks runs, and which, you know, I have a very detail-oriented mind, so I don't think I'd have a problem, you know, getting the burger orders right or whatever. But I don't know. I've crafted my career and honed my career so specifically to what I do that, you know, I would have to just yank the ripcord and bake bread or something for a living, which actually doesn't sound all that bad.
So I just want to add, like, April, I'm not sure how the question was worded by whoever asked that, but I think that, like, if you're coming out of this epidemic, like pandemic, and with like only a few options that you have to work in the industry, and it's not the path that you thought you were going to take, and that's okay, because essentially what you're doing is applying those same skills to that. Like, would I be a good live sound engineer? Probably not at first. Probably not. But I worked in an AV warehouse for 4 or 5 years and lifted a ton of stuff. So I can do that. I can take those skills and move those skills where they need to go. But like, can I adapt to that? Sure, absolutely. You know what I mean? So like, is it okay to take a gig in an area of the industry that you're not necessarily 100% comfortable with coming out of this because that's your option? Yeah, for sure. And you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I think nothing's permanent too. Don't feel like any choice that you make is this is the only thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life. You can change. You can look back on it and go, you know what? I hated doing that. I won't do it again. Or I really like this aspect of it, and I feel like I need to kind of push things in this direction. But nothing's permanent. Like, you can totally change your mind. And that's okay. Nobody's going to get mad at you or fault you or look poorly on you for if you start out in live sound and go, you know what? I really do want to do recorded sound. I don't want to pull feeder in the morning and unload a truck and be on my feet for 15 hours running around and, loud music. And that's just not the same for me. I really do love this other thing. It's okay to change your mind. You're not stuck.
The one thing I would add to that, though, is if you are changing paths, and I think that's what this question really was someone who's feeling like, I'm really not finding work, so or maybe it's a good time to change paths. I wouldn't change paths just because you think, hey, there's more work over there, because in actuality, it's going to take a huge amount of work to network and build your way, whether you're going into live sound or music production or TV, and the people you network are going to be different in every single little niche, right? So if you want to switch from one to the other, you really are starting over, and so it has to be something you're really passionate about.
Yeah, I think being true to yourself is, it's the whole honesty thing. It also applies to being honest with yourself. But like Meegan said, nothing's forever. Like I used to do wiring when I first got to Los Angeles. Sorry. When I first got to Los Angeles, work wasn't plentiful for me. So I, started doing wiring, then I started doing installs, and then I found a job at the Village running. So I was open to different opportunities, and I felt like at this point, looking back, it was all just experience. It was all just experience that I could just build off of after. So sometimes your path isn't going to go exactly how you planned it, but it'll weave, and then eventually you'll settle into what you were really meant to be, I think.
So we had a question, post-pandemic, is it possible to be both a live sound engineer and a recording engineer?
If you don't ever want to sleep, sure. But in my humble opinion, it is very, very, very difficult to do both of those things simultaneously and do them really well.
I agree.
So
there are only a few people that can do it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying no, because I don't want to say like, no, you can't do that, because like, sure, if you're crazy, you can totally do that. And if you, I don't know, if you can, not sleep and that, and I don't know, it's crazy to do that. You can do them at the same time and do them not well, which I don't recommend anyone do anything if it's not the absolute best possible output that they have to do that thing, whatever it is. So that would be my answer to that question. I don't know, Meegan probably has an opinion on that as well.
Yeah, there's a few of my very near and dear friends that are engineers that are both, they do broadcast work, they do broadcast mixing, music mixing, I should specify, do studio work or own their own studio, and also mix live for a couple of acts. Their schedules are crazy. They juggle a lot. When you mix live sound, you are exposing your ears to, potential damage. With the travel, it could impact the way that you do your studio work because, your ears are constantly changing when you're traveling a lot. But I know some very successful engineers, and their live mixing is over the top detailed in a way that a lot of just straight live engineers aren't. And that has everything to do with their recording background and the way that they listen to music and the way they perceive the music that they're trying to reinforce when they do their live mixes. But these are also people that are 40 years, in the industry. This isn't something where you come out of the gate doing both. This is good fortune and, maybe being the studio engineer for an act and them saying, you've got to come on tour with us. You have to mix us live. And that person having the right technical prowess and the right strength and support and knowledge to be able to apply their skills to the live forum.
Yeah, I want to back that up. I want to back that up and say, if you're working with a specific like a band or a client that it has a lot of in-studio stuff and is also on the road a ton, there can be some crossover there, and that's where I find the people who like really play hard in both those worlds are the most successful, is when it's like really focused on a client that they've had for a long time. They're really comfortable with, like, okay, we're doing a studio record and then we're gonna hit the road and do this like, X amount of date tour. And you're, as the engineer on that studio record, you're so familiar with everything that's going on, in all of those songs, that it's just almost easier for them to take you to engineer on, and if you have a basic amount of technical skill to be able to do that, then hell yeah, that's awesome. But I find that, like, again, that kind of success tends to be really focused on, like, it's like really client focused almost. But yeah, I mean, I do know some people who do both simultaneously, and they do it really well. But I really, really don't know many, I guess, is the best way to put that.
Although for someone entry level, like, let's say you only have a part-time recording job and you just need something to pay the bills, I would think that would be a potential source of income. But that wouldn't necessarily be thinking of it as like, I am pursuing both these as a career path.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
And do both, or you can come and be a tech for us and then go work for Tina your 3 days a week, and you can.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I know guys that have done that literally have gone and worked at the Village, but also are stagehands out in the live world, and they're just trying to piece it together. And really what they're doing is they're creating their network and expanding their network and creating their opportunities for the future. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, on either end, it kind of is the possibility to work in live sound. Like, I had an engineer that worked at the Key Club for a long time while he was running and training to be a recording engineer. At some point, he actually did have to make that decision whether he wanted to stay at the Key Club or become a full-time engineer with us. It's not really possible to be a full-time touring sound engineer and then also work for a major studio like the Village. That's more like a freelance thing where you can kind of piece things together. But I think once you become established and you are freelance, that becomes a little bit more possible. The only people that I know that can actually pull that off have been engineers that have work so deeply with their artists that the artist then says, I love what you did with my album, and you also have that live sound touring engineering chops, I'm taking you with me on tour. I only know 2 people like that, but they never sleep. Like Catherine says, never sleep, always busy. You don't really have time for much else. So it's something to consider.
Sorry, I had a puppy emergency. I had to get up and move, but I'm back. And I wanted to just add really quickly that at an entry level, I don't mean like major label, major 320 date a year tour, like making, major label records every day. I mean, at an entry level, if you have the opportunity to get as a live sound engineer or as a studio engineer, if you have the opportunity to make that crossover at any point in time, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Because I'm a studio engineer. I look at live sound, I look at people who do live sound, and I'm like, that's amazing. I'm in awe of what they do every day, because it's so different from what I do every day. But the opportunities that I've had to mix live sound, which when I was a lot younger, I had a bunch of that, because again, it paid the bills. Like, go out, get a gig, mix some live sound at, one of my internships was doing live sound for a really, really small club. And there are things that I learned during that gig on that experience that I use every day, not just like in the studio, but like in my life. When you're in a live sound situation, everything is like right now. You have to think quickly. You have to think on your feet. You have to have like 5 contingency plans ready to go in case any of that stuff goes wrong. You've got a lot of people that are going to look right at you when something sounds weird. So if you don't have the time that you have in the studio to sit and go like, oh, why did that happen? I don't really know. Let's talk about it for 12 minutes and let's fix it. We live sound engineers, they don't have that luxury. Right. Even at the highest level, they still don't. It's like on your feet in the moment, you have to make a decision. And if you can experience that and take that back into the studio with you, it's priceless. And if I have somebody who's looking for a job in my studio who has live sound engineer experience, or just any kind of live engineering experience, I am going to look more to hire that person than I am to hire other people, because I'm like, cool, that person can think on their feet quickly because they have that experience. So, and I'm assuming, hopefully, that there is some crossover the other direction with that, where I know that Meegan said, when you have a live mix, like a mixing engineer who's mixing live stuff, who's used to being in the studio, it's a hell of a lot more detailed, because they've been in the studio and they have that environment to go off of. So yeah, I mean, if you have the opportunity to make that crossover, even if it's just for like a gig or 2, highly, highly recommend it. You're going to be more hireable. You're going to have more experience, and you're going to be a little bit more well-rounded just in general in the industry. So.
And I'll mirror that for post-production too. Like for me, when I first got started, I was working a pretty low-paying post-production gig, and then I was doing live sound and concert recording to pay the bills. And there was actually a question in the group about advice for if you still have anxiety when you're mixing live. And I think that just goes away with time, but it also takes being present in the moment enough to be able to calm yourself down, take a deep breath and go, okay, what do I need to do right now, this second, to get this done? And those skills that I learned at a concert hall ended up being really beneficial. I see the puppy. That ended up being really beneficial for once I ended up going back into post-production, or being in a session like with an artist, and everyone's starting to get emotional. You've already kind of learned how to cope with it. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
I want to say something really quickly about anxiety. If you are making a record, or especially if you're mixing a live show and you don't have anxiety, like at all, I'm concerned. If you have a little bit of anxiety, that is normal. That means you care. That means you're like, holy crap, like, I need to make sure this is good. So a little bit of anxiety is expected. Like if I go into a gig and I don't have anxiety, to be completely honest, well, I mean, I have anxiety all the time. That's just me. But in general, like if I feel zero anxiety and I'm like completely at peace and like calm, that gives me anxiety. Because I'm like, do I just not care about this? Like what's going on? I think that there is like a general level of anxiety that is like normal in the studio, right? Or I can only imagine in a live situation. Just putting that out there. So like if you have anxiety, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it's a motivator, right? Like you should have anxiety because you're in a room with people that you have to deal with, you know,
But,
like you don't
and
want to make
anxiety eventually turns into adrenaline. You know, it becomes, like you say, it's the thing that keeps you going.
If the anxiety's holding you up, if it's jamming you though, or you feel like you can't work through your anxiety, like it just is consuming you, how nervous you are. This is the core of the reason why I'm a classically trained musician. I never enjoyed performing live. And a lot of it was I had really nasty stage fright, and I did not have a good time performing. I didn't mind doing it in rehearsal. I didn't mind doing it when I performed in recorded situations, but performing live but then when I became a technician and an engineer, I thrived on it. I loved it. Didn't get the same kind of anxiety, but it really shut me down. The one thing I can say is if it's shutting you down, maybe start looking into a meditation practice to start getting your anxiety under control. Because if it's really stopping you from, getting through the show, it's just a show. It's not, you're not a surgeon. People's lives aren't in your hands. You want to do a good job. If you're nervous, I agree with Catherine. Good, because that means you give a shit and you want it to go well. But if it's something that's holding you back, or something that's preventing you from achieving your goals, or it's causing you to make mistakes, you need to start figuring out how to regulate yourself and why that anxiety is getting on top of you.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be crippling. I mean, like it should be like a little bit of anxiety when you're going into a situation where there's like a lot of people counting on you, especially in the music industry. But if it's like crippling anxiety and you're just like, oh, I can't even deal, that's different. Yeah, like definitely needs to be taken care of.
I'm going to backtrack. There was a question asked earlier about for someone in their mid-30s or older who's looking to make a career change. Should we still be applying for internships, or would you recommend only applying for, would you still be looking into an entry level? And would you still be considered equally?
Apply for everything and take the gig that feels good to you. Because I think that there is no age that it's too late to make a change, and there's no age that's too old. And if somebody tells you that, you don't want to work for them anyway, to be honest. And maybe you're going to come in as an intern on a gig that you really, 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 really want and are super passionate about, and there is not a damn thing wrong with that. So you should apply for what it is that you really want to do, especially if you're making a career change at an older age, because you're even more apt to like really kind of know what that is. And I don't think that there should be any embarrassment about or judgment about where that position is, if it's entry or not. I don't know. I hope that answers that question. That's how I feel about it, at least.
I was 31 when I applied at the Village and started at the Village as a runner. So I don't think it's ever too late. I think as long, like as Catherine said, apply for a bunch of stuff. I think the position that you're going to be right for will find you as long as you're active about it. You can't just sit there and wait for somebody to be like, hey, do you want a job in a studio? You have to really go out and get it. And, obviously go about it the right ways, like we were mentioning. But I think the right situation is going to find you. if you're really passionate about it and you're really honest that's exactly what you want to do.
I think I'm just going to hit up some of the questions we had, and if anyone watching has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Question about networking right now. Like, is it right now a good time to reach out to you guys, not necessarily about work, but just to get to know you? What would be a good way of networking?
Oof.
I don't know, man. Like, is it a good time to network? I feel like it's weird because like when you just asked that question, I had this feeling that was like, when you like, no. But then at the same time, I like right when I had that feeling, I was like, oh, I feel like a dick for having that feeling. Cause like we're all kind of going through this at the same time. And so like, I don't want to feel like because it's pandemic and I really don't want to talk to anybody that it's not okay for somebody to reach out. So I don't know. Moral of that story is I don't know. Is it a good time? And if so, like how? I think the best thing to do is to log in to a webinar and ask that question, and then afterwards say like, hey, I just watched your webinar for 2 hours and I'd like to connect. Here's my info. Maybe that's a really good way, because like right now, like a cold call or a cold email is like, even for me at least, is even more like, ugh. I don't know if that makes any sense.
How would you feel about it if it was an informational ask as opposed to, like, one thing I'm looking at in my book is that there's 2 types of meetings and network purposes for meeting. Like, you might be networking with someone for the sake of work, and you might be networking with somebody for the sake of learning from them, right? Would that feel awkward if someone reached out to you right now for the sake of education learning? Like, hey, I heard you say this thing. And
no, I don't think so. I think that an ask right now about education learning, it to be honest, is a little bit more attractive than like looking for a gig, because like I'm not, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like I'm not even in the state that my studio is in. Like I haven't been in the room with the records that I own for like almost 6 months. So like if you're looking for a gig, like I gotta hook you up with my house engineer who's like running everything right now. So like, but if you're gonna reach out because you're looking for information or you're looking for some sort of educational boost, or anything like that, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's cool. Like that would be my pleasure. So I don't know if it's different for everybody else right now during the pandemic. But for me personally, for educational purposes, like that's awesome. Like a gig, that's really, really tough right now. I mean, it's tough all the time, but right now it's especially tough.
Yeah, I have this weird visceral reaction to people who are actually emailing me for gigs right now. Because it's like, we're not even open. Like, how am I going to hire somebody if we're not even open? That might be really mean, but it's like, read the room. But informational, like, you know, just the fact that you guys are all in this webinar and interested and learning is really cool. You know, I wouldn't mind if anybody wanted to follow up and had any other questions and needing advice, just because you guys did make the effort to come in and pay attention to what we have to say. And, you know, just being part of SoundGirls is an amazing effort for anybody who's part of SoundGirls. I think networking with a group and finding, you know, people of like mind, even if they're not like super successful or super famous. If you guys all kind of network, everybody kind of starts to rise to the top together. I'm finding, like, it's, you know, people that I went to school with, it's kind of cool. Like, I'm seeing them being successful. It's kind of a cool thing. Like, once you all kind of live life together and can help each other out, like you could get somebody else a gig or somebody else can get you a gig, and just, you know, be in it with all these people. You know, it's kind of a cool thing when you develop your relationships, like Meegan had said earlier. That's really an important part of being in this business is the relationships. And you don't want to burn any bridges. It's too small of a town. Everybody will know.
So, I'm just going to back up what Tina said really quickly and say that this, no matter what, like anybody tells you, no matter like how much you know about a microphone or how much you know about like some type of crazy software plugin, this is a people business. It doesn't matter what part of the industry you're in. If you're in live sound, if you're in post-production, if you're in video game sound, if you're in the studio, this is a people business. And when at the end of the day, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have really great friends that have insane credits. Like just, they do insane shit every day. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even believe that you just did that record. I don't even know what that means. And at the end of the day, the thing that's most important to them is are the people that are close to them and their families. Like credits are great, the experience is good, but like they make great friends with those clients. It's not about like, oh, we're winning Grammys. It's about like, I had this amazing experience with these people. And I think that it's really, really hard to lose sight of that when it's just like technology, and we're all just trying to duck like all this technology all the time, and like all this crap that's like being thrown at us. And now we're in a pandemic. So now it's like technology all the time, like this is a people business. So, I am more thankful for the friends that I have that work in this industry, whether they're far more successful, which most of them are, or less successful than I am about any credit or any, I don't know, record I've worked on. Like the records are great, they're important, but like I have the most wonderful people in my life, and it's because of this industry. They're all wonderful people, so like just I don't know, that's like the best advice I can give is like, this is a people industry. People are always first. So if you're going into any gig, like an internship or anything new, it's about how you interact with people. It's not about like how much you know about signal flow, really. I mean, it's helpful, but it's more about the people than anything else.
Nobody wants to live on a tour bus with a dick.
Yeah, I can
teach you how to use a microphone, but I can't teach you how to not be a dick.
Yeah, that's the biggest advice when people say, well, how do I get into the rooms and how do I, how can I be successful? And I'm like, well, don't be a dick. Like, be the person that somebody is going to want to spend 16 to 20 hours a day with.
Yeah, in my world, live with them. Live with them on a bus. Work with them all day and get back on the tube and go to the next place. Work with them all day, get back on the tube. Like, there are people whose technical knowledge is lacking on tour, but their spirit, work ethic, camaraderie, how they look out for everybody around them is just so amazing and abundant that lack of technical skill or knowledge is completely 100% overlooked, because here is somebody that will always rise, always help, keep best attitude, work really hard. Like I would rather have 5 of those people around me than one person that is a dickhead and really knows his shit. It just isn't, it's not fun. Like, I want to have a good time when I work for 15 hours in a day. You don't need to be a court jester, but you at least need to have some sort of, positive thing going on, or some sort of vibe about you that makes people want to be with you, or else they're not going to want to tour with you. They'll find somebody else. There's so many people that want to do it. They'll find another person that they like,
I heard a great quote recently that no one gets fired for how they EQ their kick drum. They get fired because they're a jerk. Yeah.
100%.
We just got a good question. We kind of just got into this a little bit, but would it be inappropriate to contact studio owners or engineers right now about future work just so they recognize my name when everything reopens? Or maybe to reframe that, what could someone be doing now so that you do remember their name in a way that wouldn't be directly asking for work or would be respectful? Like how could they start building a relationship with you?
I'll jump in and say a good way to do that is to participate in things that, like if you're looking to get a job with me specifically, or maybe Tina or maybe Meegan, is participate in things that they're involved in. So like, for instance, this webinar. So, you know, you're signing in and you're paying attention to the thing. And I don't know if Meegan or Tina are doing more webinars as this pandemic goes on, but just say like, hey, I saw you speaking at this thing and I saw you speaking at this thing. That's like, oh, cool. So you showed up for 2 different things and took the time to listen to all of that. And, you know, so a good way to do that would be like an email that says, hey, I really enjoyed, you know, the SoundGirls webinar on this that you were on, and maybe another thing that you were doing. And if there's ever an opportunity in the future or an opening at your studio, your facility, or at your company, I would love to be considered. Like, here's a little bit of information about me. That would be, if I got an email like that, I would put it in the folder of saved things. I would save it and put it in the thing until that time comes when, you know, when this is all over and I'm looking for somebody or looking for help, I can go, those people that I have in that saved thing. And I'll go like, oh, and I'll revisit that. So, you know, again, concise and showing interest up front with like maybe things that we're involved in or things that we're doing.
I'd like to back that up. Yeah, I think at this point, just to be brutally honest, like I think we're more concentrated on what we're doing with our companies, how to creatively stay in business. So I think, you know, to say, hey, what's up? I'd like to get to know you. Can we have like virtual coffee or something? Like I honestly, like I don't have time for that. I'm still trying to figure out how to safely keep, you know, my employees paid and working without catching this crazy virus. So I think, you know, that's for like a different time. Like when we're back in the office, when we're back in the studios and everything, like, yeah, sure, I will be so happy to have you over for coffee and show you the studios and everything. I think at this point, I think I've got kind of a full plate, to be completely honest.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, you know, like what Catherine said, like, oh, hey, like if it was like you've attended this webinar and it's like, hey, you said this thing, I was wondering, do you have time to just answer this question? That's a little less, I feel like I would be happy to just like take a minute to answer your email.
And really, this thing's going to live online forever. So it's like, I know I've participated in things that have gone online and someone will message me a year later. So even if it's next year, someone says, hey, I watched this webinar and I saw you on it and I really appreciated what you said about XYZ. Like, this is still going to be able to be a way in, possibly, do you think? Even if it's next year or the year
Let me
after.
just say that, like, one of the big things about hiring somebody or appreciation for an employee is their ability to anticipate other people's needs, their ability to anticipate other people's moods, their ability to read the room and like read the general feeling and mood that's happening. And so if I get an email from somebody that was like, hey, really enjoyed the webinar you were involved in. I know that, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but maybe for future reference, if you're ever looking to hire somebody, I would be interested. Here's a little bit of information about me. Bam. So somebody who's like clearly reading the room, like clearly anticipating the fact that like we all have a ton of shit to deal with in any given moment right now, trying to keep our businesses afloat, trying to keep our staff from not getting sick, which like that's a huge concern, like huge concern. Trying to pay the bills, also trying to answer emails from young people who watch webinars. Like there's a lot of millions of things happening, right? Like cooking, cleaning, dealing with everything right now, not being able to leave the house. So I think that if I get an email from somebody who's clearly understanding what's going on and is respectfully reaching out and saying like, I know shit is crazy right now. But in the future, if you're looking to hire somebody, I would be interested. Here's a little bit of information. Thank you very much. That's the best way to do it right now. Because is anybody hiring right now? Not really. No. So if you are sending out an email or contacting somebody in the industry trying to get a job right now, that just tells me that you are like out of touch with what's actually going on and probably not going to answer your email. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's my take on it. Like, if it's done in a respectful way, you understand what's happening in the world right now, cool.
And I'll piggyback on that, because in post-production, there are some people who are still working, but it's, you know, we don't know if we could be furloughed, or, you know, our work is going to slow down until production starts going up. And the same thing is going to happen with the studios too, that until the studio work starts coming back, we're not going to see the need for people to be working. And so to ask for work right now is just not really, like you say, I mean, it just almost feels a little out of touch to be asking directly for work.
Yeah, I agree with Catherine and you, April. I think that, you know, I'm really worried about the people that we furloughed and getting them back on payroll. And, you know, we just started talking about maybe when that can be, and we really don't have an answer. And so to think about hiring somebody new, I can't. I'm obsessed with getting the team that I had before this shit went down the beginning of March, who were doing incredible work and we're gearing up for a really busy season and we're all really focused. I want them all back and making money and in our warehouse again. And then I can start thinking about hiring somebody. But if somebody wants advice, or, you know, they hear me say something here that kind of, you know, sparks their interest or ticks them off, you know, and they want further explanation, come on, write me. I'll talk to you. Right now, I actually have a little bit more time than I normally do. Once we get back in it, I have a really hard time making time to have coffee with people, lunch with people, meet with people. A lot of the time I have people out to our warehouse to meet with me for a half hour, 45 minutes, take them on a quick tour, talk to them for a little while, and, you know, help them in any way I can. But it's really hard, especially now, trying to navigate like what I should be doing, what I am doing, what I could be doing. You know, those are all along with, you know, dog walking and the 100 other things that, you know, come into our lives on the daily. But yeah, I would say advice, no problem. Work, God, I'm sorry. Not right now.
And I think it's fair to say that anybody who is you know, if you reach out to somebody and they don't get back to you, don't take it personally, because we have no idea what's happening in people's lives right now. So we are in the, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're all in this together, right? So like everybody needs to, even more so right now, consider everybody else. Everybody needs to consider everybody else more than they usually would in this moment. And that goes for the most qualified of us to the least qualified of us.
And hopefully that's something that'll stick. I mean, I keep thinking about the positive things that could come out of this. And I actually look at Ethel Gabriel, who I've been working on a documentary about, who was a engineer or producer for RCA for 40 years. And she started, she was in college during World War II. So her college yearbook is like, here's all these people who went off to war and didn't come back. And it only, that the character, like that really formed her character. And that really is what made her a successful producer, was just that she cared about people, because that was just what she grew up in between the war and the Depression. And so we are in the last couple minutes. Does anyone have any final thoughts they want to give, or?
This has been super fun. So
Yeah.
I want to thank the rest of the panelists. This has been awesome. And it's like
Yeah, this has been excellent.
Worlds here in a way. And I have such respect for everything that you guys do. Tina, the Village is one of my favorite studios in the world. been there
Well,
many
thanks.
times. So that's a lot of work. So thanks for doing what you do, and Meegan, thanks for doing what you do, which is insane shit that I wouldn't even consider doing.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about you.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel the same way about you guys too.
The insane shit that you guys both deal with on a daily basis is amazing. And April, thank you so much for putting this together. And of
Yeah,
course,
thanks, April.
thanks
Yeah,
to
well,
Thank you
to
for
Carrie.
coming. Thank you for having me. Thanks for talking. You guys are all awesome. Great questions. It's so much fun. I'll do this anytime with you all.
let's do it again. We'll find another topic and do
Yeah,
another one.
and
Absolutely.
for those who are logged on, if they want to email, for me personally, if you want to email me, you can email me through my studio, 513 recording.com. You can just email the info page, and if you have questions about stuff, I'll get back to them as soon as I can. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
And if anyone wants to reach out to me, proaudiogirl.com, and I can also redirect any questions to the panelists.
Yeah, and if anybody, just tina@villagestudios.com. And honestly, I'm here. So let us know if you have any questions.
My email's in the chat. And if you want, you can hit up April or Carrie. Both of them got my email address. I'm here to be of support through these darkened times. Good luck, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.